Welcome to all of you. This is Anita Goswami, Assistant Professor of English, Government College, GCRChuru. In our today's session, we will have a discussion about our text of a present poem, The Love Song of J Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. In our earlier lecture, we had brief intro of the poet and the brief background information of our poem as well. So, as you already know, that it is considered one of the quintessential works of modernism, a literary movement at the turn of the 20th century that emphasized themes of alienation, isolation, and the diminishing power of the traditional sources of authority. As we will see in the text of this poem, all these themes, alienation, isolation, degradation of traditional values, integrity, loss of integrity, all these things we can find out. So this poem is a dramatic monologue in which the speaker narrates the anxieties and preoccupations of his inner life. As you can see that here the poem begins with an epigraph which has been taken from Italian text Dante's Inferno. So you know, student, that epigraph actually is a kind of short quotation, phrase, or a short poem that is placed at the beginning of another piece of writing, such as we can find here in our today's poem. So it is a kind of brief phrase or a piece of poem which is placed at the beginning of another piece of writing to encapsulate that work's main themes and to set the tone. For instance, as in this poem, we have this epigraph which has been taken from Dante's Inferno, which is basically an Italian text. So it is a quotation from Dante's Inferno's Canto 27. So Dante, who faces the spirit of the hell-bound Guido di Montefeltro, who is a false advisor, and the two trade questions are answers. It is an important lead into the poem itself, as the quote conveys, the Italian quote conveys the idea that the answer will be given by Guido, because no man has ever returned to earth alive from the hellish abyss. As this epigraph actually elucidates the theme of the poem and the nature of the hero of our poem, Prufrock. So through this epigraph, Eliot suggests that there is similarity between the life of Inferno and the life of modern city, where there is barrenness, tedium, and lack of communication. So in this poem, Eliot has experimented with this form of dramatic monologue and modified it by eliminating the implied listener. So here we can find only the speaker who gives a long speech, but we couldn't find any kind of attentive listener here. So this is in fact a kind of interior monologue, we can say. So T.S. Eliot's poem actually is the story of a modern day Guido, the Dante's Guido, who can be resembles our today's modern day Guido, living in a smoky city hell. He is insecure, lonely, and loveless, and so he actually leads a life in hell, a life in death situation. He is moving between heaven and hell. So the whole modern city is half deserted. So we can see the atmosphere of the whole poem is quite right in the beginning of this epigraph as well. So now moving ahead, let's focus on the text of this poem. Here we are. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient athrized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels, and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming questions. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. So, students, as you can see from the very beginning lines of this poem, that here a speaker who actually suggests to somebody that let us go, you and I, means there are two people. To another one, he is suggesting that let us go when the night sky is spread out like a patient anesthetized on an operating table. So here the poet has used the simile in the line like a patient anesthetized upon a table, actually suggest that the night sky is spread out like a patient anesthetized on an operating table. So let us move. We should move from here and let us go through certain half-desert streets. So what kind of outside atmosphere environment that he says that there are certain half-deserted streets, that there are very few people on the half-empty streets where which are marked by these streets are marked by the muttering retreats of restless nights in once night cheap hotels. Actually, these are marked by sleepless, cheap hotels where people only stay one night, and by shabby run-down restaurants. There are shabby restaurants, the streets which follow each other like a boring argument, and these things make you feel some kind of urgent question, that the streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent. So here the speaker says that half deserted streets means these streets are empty, lonely. Muttering retreats means these are the cheap hotels. Sawdust, insidious. Insidious means intending to entrap something. And yet the speaker feels that he is leading towards a kind of overwhelming question. Overwhelming means the kind of intensity which is going on in his mind, a kind of question. The intense thought which is going on in his psyche, in his mind. And what was the question? The overwhelming question is, oh, do not ask. He is also suggesting that please don't ask to him what is it, what the question was it. Let us go and make our visit. So here again we can find there are the repetition of several lines, or we can say there is refrain. The poet has used so many refrain here, means the repetitive lines which come again and again throughout the stanza, like let us go, then let us go again, and do not ask. What is it? Why the speaker is suggesting that here the Prufrock, J Alfred Prufrock, who may be a middle-aged intellectual, indecisive man, who invites the reader, we can say, as we can't easily identify who is the listener here, maybe he invites the reader through these literary lines along with him to the modern city, the kind of modern city he is moving. He describes the street scenes, and he notes a social gathering of women or some kind of people there, that these things provides the kind of symbolic meaning here, that Prufrock might be a intellectual, pedantic, slightly miserable person who is like a patient thrust upon a table and focused mainly on the negative things. Negative things in the terms as we can find in the line, the restless nights in one night cheap hotels. So the emptiness of the world is suggestive here in the phrase oyster shells, sawdust restaurants. So everything is impermanent here. Everything is about to dissolve into nothing. So the whole world is transitory, half broken or unpopulated, as these streets seems to half desert mean unpopulated or maybe about to collapse. So by setting the atmosphere, this kind of atmosphere in the beginning of the poem, the poet intends to convey his apocalyptic thought or his ambiguity, which keeps on bothering him, that what kind of overwhelming question he is facing. And he, at the same time, he also suggests to the listener that he should not ask that overwhelming question to him, and then he breaks the discussion in between and suggests the other to the other person that they should move from there and they should make a visit of the city. So I hope you have got through the essence of the first paragraph. Now in the next line, what he says: in the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. So in these lines, the poet suggests that there he also describes the social gathering of women in some kind of hotel or restaurants. He describes that there are women who are discussing about the Renaissance artist Michelangelo, and they are moving here and there. So the kind of purposeless activity we can discern here, that these are not such kind of important things which can be which the people should discuss. Or when he says that there are in social gathering there are women in who enters and exits the room while talking of Michelangelo, but the speaker couldn't find the essence behind all this stuff. And in the next stanza, what he says, here we are: the yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. In the very next lines, where the speaker sees that there is yellow smoke, yellow fog, yellow smoke which rubs its back upon the window panes, the window glasses. Actually, it seems it rubs its snout all over the windows. The yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes. So it licks the corners of the nights, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening. The smoke licks the corners of the night with its tongue. It lingers above the stagnant water in drains. So where he looks there is stagnant water in the drains. And he also mentions that let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys. That actually the speaker gives uses the gives a kind of personality to the inanimate things like yellow fog or yellow smoke, a kind of person who is moving or who is flying around there, and who rubs its back on the window panes, and it seems that it let himself to fall upon its back on the chimneys as well. So the smoke mingles with soot from the chimneys, and it slipped by the terrace. And suddenly made a sudden leap, means it suddenly makes a jumps there, but and seeing that it was a soft October night, but seeing that it is a cool autumn night of October month, it again what it does, curled once about the house and fell asleep. It curls around the house and it fell asleep, means it fades away. The smoke has disappeared. Then, so the natural environment, what kind of movements are going on in the outside there, the poet describes through the mouthpiece of Prufrock, who actually says that who sees there are women in social gatherings who talk about Michelangelo, and after then when he moves ahead, he felt that there is yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes. So it appears clearly to the reader that maybe it can be a cat or itself absent, and maybe it represents explicitly only in parts like leaking, sleeping, leaping, curling. These are some kind of explicit accents performed by the cat. So here the metaphor has, in a sense, hold out to be replaced by a series of metonyms that it stands as a kind of rhetorical introduction to what follows it name. So here the fragmentary accents has been described by the speaker. It's through the fragmentation of the cat, it could be also symbolized the fragmentation of the hero Prufrock's psyche as well. So the very schism that is leading to him to have this kind of a empty conversation, his hope of risking, his terror of risking their his interest in women, his terror about so many things. So like cat, Prufrock is on the outside looking in at world that has not been prepared for him. So this fragmentation can also be applied to the earlier reference to the women also, and it can be instead we can consider by the some part of the some parts of conversation in there, and this fragmentation is furthermore a kind of modernist technique which has been used by the poet here, and which had not since been before in literature, and was probably not very well received by the high circle of literary elite at that time of the poet T.S. Eliot. So modernist poets or writers who believed that their artistry should mirror the chaotic world that they lived in, so which is seldom in meaning. In the real world, it's parceled up, handed over in the whole parts. So this is why the whole poem is so significantly argued over there, the fragmentation with the poet Eliot, who used in this whole poem, we one may take that these are the suggestive of the modern man's life or his world. So one can make out the meaning from the clues which are provided by the poet here in the poem. So thank you, students. I hope you have understood till now, and rest of the text we will take in our next lecture. Thank you.